The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Victoria Hayes stepped into the penthouse, her cleaning cart wheels squeaking against polished marble. 11:47 p.m., the city sprawled below through floor-to ceiling windows. A constellation of lights that made her feel small and insignificant. She froze. A man stood on the terrace, silhouetted against the glowing skyline. Even from behind, she knew who he was. James Wellington. The billionaire CEO who supposedly left every night by 8. Her first instinct was to retreat, but she needed this job. Her mother's medical bills demanded it. Victoria pushed the cart forward, the rumbling wheels announcing her presence. He turned. Their eyes met across the empty space, and something passed between them that Victoria couldn't name. In business magazines, James Wellington looked untouchable, armored in expensive suits and colder smiles. But here, at midnight, his tie hung loose around his neck. His dark hair fell messily across his forehead. His gray eyes held an exhaustion that mirrored her own. "I apologize," Victoria said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I was told you wouldn't be here. I can come back tomorrow. No need." He walked inside, closing the terrace door behind him. The click echoed in the silence. "I should apologize. I'm usually not here this late, but insomnia had other plans." He studied her with an intensity that made her skin prickle, then extended his hand. "I don't think we've met properly." James Wellington. Victoria wiped her palm on her navy uniform before accepting his handshake. His skin was warm, and she was suddenly aware of her calluses from years of scrubbing floors and washing dishes. Victoria Hayes. "I handle the penthouse cleaning on weeknights." Victoria said her name slowly, like he was tasting it. "Please don't let me interrupt your work." Pretend I'm not here? Tossable, she thought. But she nodded and began setting up her supplies. She moved to the bookshelves lining the east wall, carefully removing each leather-bound volume to dust behind it. She felt his gaze on her back, heavy and curious. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria paused, a copy of Pride and Prejudice in her hands. "Of course. Why do you work the night shift?" "Most people prefer days," she considered lying. But something in his voice, genuine curiosity without judgment, made her honest. "I work 3 jobs. Coffee shop from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. office buildings from 3 to 10. And here from midnight until 4. Night cleaning pays better." She returned the book to its place. "I need the money." James set down his whiskey glass with a soft clink. 3 jobs. That's barely any time to sleep. About 4 hours a night. Victoria moved to the next shelf. "It's temporary. My mother had surgery 6 months ago. The medical bills are significant. Once those are paid off, I can cut back." "What kind of surgery?" Victoria hesitated. Wealthy people didn't usually ask follow-up questions about the help. They barely saw her at all. "Heart surgery. Valve replacement." The insurance covered most of it, but the co-pays and medications add up. James walked closer, standing near enough that she could smell his cologne. Something expensive and woody that made her head spin. "These books." He gestured to the collection surrounding them. "Have you read any of them?" The question caught her off guard. "A few. I studied literature before I had to drop out of college." "Let me guess. Jane Austen fan?" Victoria smiled despite herself. Everyone assumes Pride and Prejudice. Actually, it's Persuasion. The story of second chances and recognizing what truly matters. Understanding flickered across his face, something deep and immediate that made her breath catch. James pulled the book from the shelf and handed it to her. "Tell me about it." For the next hour, Victoria forgot about cleaning. They sat in leather chairs near the window, and she talked about an Eliot's journey, about love lost and found again, about the courage it takes to claim your own happiness. James listened with an intensity she'd never experienced. He asked questions that showed he understood not just the plot, but the heartbeat beneath it. "You should go back to school," he said finally. "Finish your degree," reality crashed back. Victoria stood abruptly. "That's not possible right now. I should get back to work." "You're paying for cleaning service, not literary discussions." What if I told you I got more value from the last hour than I have from most of my business meetings this week? She looked at him carefully, searching for the angle. Men like James Wellington didn't have casual conversations with cleaning staff. Why are you really here tonight? And don't say insomnia. James stood as well, moving to the window. The city spread below them like a carpet of diamonds, beautiful and distant. Because at 38 years old, I've built an empire worth billions. But I come home to an empty penthouse every night. I have everything money can buy and nothing that actually matters. The vulnerability in his voice surprised her. Victoria joined him at the window, maintaining careful distance. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it certainly makes misery more comfortable. He laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his entire face. Is that from Austin? No, that's from my mother. She has a saying for everything. She sounds wise. She is. Victoria checked her watch and felt panic rise. I really do need to clean now. I'm already an hour behind schedule. Then let me help you. Victoria turned to stare at him. You want to help me clean your own office? Why not? I'm the reason you're behind schedule. Before she could protest, James had rolled up his sleeves and was reaching for the cleaning supplies. Just tell me what to do. It was absurd watching a billionaire CEO spray window cleaner on glass panels. But Victoria found herself laughing as she worked beside him. They fell into an easy rhythm, talking about books and movies and childhood memories. James told her about growing up with expectations crushing down on him. Always being groomed to take over the family business, never allowed to just be himself. Victoria shared stories about her childhood, about a father who left, and a mother who worked herself nearly to death to keep them afloat. By 3 a.m., when they finished cleaning, something had shifted between them. The distance that should have existed between employer and employee had blurred into something more complicated. Something that felt like the beginning of a friendship. Or perhaps something deeper. Same time tomorrow? James asked as Victoria prepared to leave. She knew she should say no. Should maintain professional boundaries. Should protect herself from whatever this was becoming. But instead, she found herself nodding. I'll be here at midnight. I'll be waiting. Victoria stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, she saw James still standing there, watching her leave with an expression she couldn't quite read. As the elevator descended, carrying her back to reality, she touched her lips, where a smile had formed unbidden. She didn't know it yet, but that night had changed everything. Above her, 47 floors up, James Wellington stood at his window and watched the city lights, feeling more awake than he had in years. Tomorrow night couldn't come fast enough. 3 weeks passed like a fever dream. Every midnight, Victoria arrived to find James waiting. Their conversations grew deeper, more personal. He began keeping the penthouse stocked with her favorite tea. She started arriving 15 minutes early, anticipating their time together with a flutter in her chest that both excited and terrified her. On a Thursday night in late October, Victoria arrived to find the penthouse different. Soft music played from hidden speakers. The dining table was set with 2 places, candles flickering between them like captured stars. What is this? Victoria asked, setting down her cleaning cart with trembling hands. James emerged from the kitchen carrying 2 plates. Dinner, I realized we've been talking for weeks, but we've never actually shared a meal. I hope you like pasta. I made it myself. Victoria's professional instincts screamed at her to refuse, to maintain the boundaries that were already dangerously blurred. But her heart, her lonely, hopeful heart, made her feet move toward the table. You cooked? Badly, probably. James admitted with that self-deprecating smile she'd grown to love. But I wanted to do something for you. You've given me so much these past weeks. They sat down. Victoria took a bite of the pasta. It was actually delicious, and she told him so, watching his face light up with boyish pleasure. There's something I need to tell you, James said, his fork pausing midway to his mouth. I've been thinking about this for days. Victoria's heart hammered against her ribs. What is it? I want to pay off your mother's medical bills. All of them. And I want to fund your return to college. The room tilted. Victoria set down her fork carefully. James, no. Why not? I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Then this becomes something else. Victoria's voice shook. Then I'm not your friend. I'm your charity project. Your good deed. That's not what this is, isn't it? Victoria stood, her chair scraping against the floor. You feel guilty about your wealth? I remind you that real people struggle. So you throw money at me to feel better about yourself. You really believe that? James stood as well, hurt flashing across his face. After everything we've shared, I don't know what to believe. Victoria wrapped her arms around herself. This whole thing is insane. You're a billionaire. I clean your office. There are rules about this kind of thing for a reason. Rules. James moved closer. What rules say I can't care about someone? Care? The word felt dangerous on her tongue. Yes, Victoria, care. He was close enough now that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Is that so impossible to believe? It's complicated. Life is complicated. His hand rose slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. I haven't felt this alive in years, maybe ever. And I think you feel it too. Victoria's breath caught. This is a bad idea. Probably the worst I've ever had. We're from different worlds. Then maybe it's time we stop pretending those worlds don't intersect. He leaned in slowly, giving her every opportunity to stop him, but Victoria found herself rising on her toes, closing the distance between them. The kiss was soft at first, tentative. Then something broke open between them, and Victoria's hands fisted in his shirt while his arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Victoria rested her forehead against his chest. This changes everything, she whispered. I know. Oh, your board of directors? The other employees? I don't care. You say that now. James tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his eyes. Victoria Hayes, I have spent my entire life doing what other people expected. Following rules. Maintaining appearances. And I have been utterly, completely miserable. You make me feel real again. Human again. I'm not giving that up because some strangers might disapprove. Victoria wanted to believe him. God, how she wanted to believe him. My mother always says if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Smart woman. But sometimes, maybe once in a lifetime, something wonderful happens that you didn't expect and don't deserve. And the only question is whether you're brave enough to reach for it. Before Victoria could respond, his phone buzzed violently on the table. Once, twice, 5 times, in rapid succession. James glanced at the screen and his face went pale. What is it? It's my CFO. There's been a problem. A big one. Looked at her with genuine regret. I have to deal with this. It can't wait, of course. I understand. But as James grabbed his jacket and headed for the private elevator, something cold settled in Victoria's stomach. She watched him disappear behind closing doors. And the penthouse suddenly felt cavernous and empty. Victoria turned to clean up the dinner dishes. Trying to ignore the unease crawling up her spine, that's when she saw it. James's tablet sat on the side table, screen still glowing. Victoria knew she shouldn't look, but something drew her closer. The email application was open, and there, at the top of his inbox, was a message with the subject line, Wellington Tower, Staffing Restructure. Victoria's hands shook as she read, James, per our discussion, I've prepared the termination packages for the night cleaning staff. Automating 2 robotic systems will save $2.3 million annually. Victoria Hayes' position will be eliminated effective December 1st, along with 12 others. I know you said you'd handle informing her personally. Let me know if you need the severance package adjusted, Marcus. The tablet slipped from Victoria's numb fingers. December 1st was 3 weeks away. This whole time. While James was getting to know her, sharing intimate conversations, kissing her like she mattered, he'd known he was going to fire her. She was being replaced by robots, and he'd never said a word. Victoria's vision blurred with tears as the truth crashed down on her. She wasn't special. She was convenient. A distraction for a lonely billionaire who would discard her the moment. She stopped being entertaining. The elevator denned. James stepped out, his phone call apparently finished. Victoria, I'm sorry about that. Where were we? He stopped when he saw her face. What's wrong? Victoria's voice came out cold, flat. December 1st. Were you ever going to tell me? Understanding and guilt washed over his features. You read my email? Were you ever going to tell me? Victoria repeated, her voice rising. Yes, of course. I was trying to find the right time. The right time? Victoria laughed bitterly. Before or after you kissed me? Before or after you made me believe this meant something? It does mean something. Victoria, please, let me explain. Explain what? That you've been playing with me while planning to take away my job? That everything tonight was some kind of guilt offering before you throw me away? That's not what this is. Then what is it, James? Victoria grabbed her cart, hands shaking so hard the supplies rattled. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you got to feel good about yourself by slumming it with the help. And I was stupid enough to fall for it. Don't do this. James reached for her, but Victoria jerked away. Don't touch me. Don't ever touch me again. She pushed past him into the elevator, tears streaming down her face. Victoria. Wait, please. Let me fix this. The doors began to close, and Victoria met his desperate gaze one final time. Some things can't be fixed. James, you taught me that. The elevator descended, and Victoria collapsed against the wall, her whole body shaking with sobs. Above her, James Wellington stood alone in his penthouse, staring at the closed elevator doors, and for the first time in 20 years, he felt his heart actually break. Victoria didn't show up for her shift. The next night, or the night after that, James stood in his penthouse each evening, watching the elevator doors that never opened, feeling the weight of his mistake pressing down on his chest like concrete. On the third night, he broke. He found her address in the employee files and drove himself to the small apartment. Building on the south side of the city, no driver, no security. Just him and his desperation. Victoria answered the door in sweatpants and an oversized shirt, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy. When she saw him, her expression hardened. Get out. Not until you hear me out. I don't want to hear anything you have to say. But James put his foot in the door before she could slam it. 5 minutes. That's all I ask. Then I'll leave and never bother you again. Victoria stared at him for a long moment, then stepped aside. 5 minutes. The apartment was tiny but immaculate. Family photos covered one wall. Medical bills sat stacked on a small dining table. The reality of her life surrounded him, making his guilt burn hotter. The restructuring plan was approved before I ever met you, James said, the words tumbling out in a rush. It was pure business, a way to cut costs and modernize. I didn't know any of the night cleaning staff personally. They were just numbers on a spreadsheet that's supposed to make me feel better. No, it's supposed to make you understand that when I met you, everything changed. James ran a hand through his hair. Suddenly those numbers had faces, had stories, had mothers with medical bills and dreams they'd put on hold. So you felt guilty. Like I said, yes, I felt guilty. But that's not why I kept coming back every night. James took a step closer. I kept coming back because talking to you was the only time I felt like myself. Not the CEO, not the Wellington heir, just James. And that terrified me because I knew I had to choose. Choose what? Between doing what's best for the company and doing what's right for you? James's voice cracked. I've been trying to find a way to have both. To cancel the restructuring without raising questions from the board about why I suddenly care about a specific cleaning staff member. Because if they knew about us, Victoria, they'd destroy you. They'd paint you as someone using me for money. They'd make your life hell. Victoria's arms wrapped around herself. So your solution was to lie to me? My solution was to protect you while I figured out how to fix this mess. But I waited too long, and I hurt you. And I'm sorry. Silence stretched between them. You should go, Victoria finally said. Your 5 minutes are up. I'm canceling the restructuring. Victoria's head snapped up. What? I'm canceling it. All of it. You keep your job. So does everyone else. James pulled an envelope from his jacket. And this is my resignation letter from Wellington Enterprises. I'm stepping down as CEO. You're insane, probably. James set the envelope on her table. But I meant what I said. I'm done living my life according to other people's expectations. If keeping my position means sacrificing people who depend on those jobs, then I don't want the position. Victoria snatched up the envelope, scanning the letter inside. This is real. You're actually resigning. It's effective immediately. The board will be informed tomorrow morning. James, you can't do this. That company is your entire life. No. He looked at her with an intensity that stole her breath. That company was my prison. You showed me what life could be if I had the courage to choose differently. This is too much. I can't accept this. Victoria thrust the letter back at him. You'll resent me. Maybe not today, but eventually. You'll look at me and see everything you gave up. Or maybe I'll look at you and see everything I gained. You don't even know me. Not really. We had a few midnight conversations and one kiss. Then let me get to know you. James caught her hands, his grip warm and steady. No games. No secrets. Just two people trying to figure out if this thing between us is real, and if it's not, then at least I'll have lived honestly for once in my life. He squeezed her hands gently. Victoria, I'm not asking you to fall in love with me. I'm asking you to give me a chance to earn your trust back. Victoria's resolve wavered. She wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe in second chances like an Eliot in her favorite book. But before she could respond, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her face went white. It's the hospital, Victoria answered, and James watched the color drain completely from her features. I understand. I'll be right there. She hung up, her hands trembling. My mother. She collapsed. They're taking her into emergency surgery. Something about the replacement valve failing. I'll drive you. No, I can't. I can't deal with this and you and everything else right now. Then just let me drive you to the hospital. Nothing more. You shouldn't be alone right now. Victoria looked at him, torn between pride and fear, between anger and desperate need for support. Okay, she whispered. Okay. They drove in silence. James's expensive car cutting through late-night traffic. At the hospital, Victoria jumped out before he'd even parked fully. James followed her inside, watching as she spoke frantically with nurses and doctors. The medical jargon washed over them both. But the conclusion was clear. Victoria's mother needed another surgery, immediately, and the cost would be astronomical. How much? Victoria asked, her voice hollow. Between the surgery, the ICU stay, and the new medication regimen. We're looking at approximately $300,000. Her insurance will cover some, but the out-of-pocket costs will still be substantial. Victoria swayed on her feet. James caught her elbow, steadying her. I'll pay for it, he said. Mr. Wellington, you can't. I can and I will. Tell the doctors to proceed with whatever treatment she needs. Send all bills to me. The doctor looked between them, clearly confused by their relationship, but nodded and hurried away. Victoria turned on James, tears streaming down her face. Why did you do that? Because your mother needs help. Ow. I'm in your debt. Don't you see? This is exactly what I was afraid of. Now, I can't walk away. Now I'm trapped. You're not trapped? This has nothing to do with us. This is about making sure your mother survives. James gripped her shoulders gently. Victoria, I would have paid for this whether you ever spoke to me again or not. Your mother shouldn't suffer because we're complicated. Everything about this is wrong, I know. I hate that I need you right now. I know that too. Victoria collapsed against his chest, her body shaking with sobs. James wrapped his arms around her, holding her together while she fell apart. Hours passed in the sterile waiting room. Victoria paced. James bought terrible coffee from vending machines. Neither spoke about the resignation letter still sitting on Victoria's dining table. Finally, surgeon emerged, still in scrubs. The surgery was successful. Your mother is stable. But Ms. Hayes, I need to be honest with you. This valve replacement has failed once. It will likely fail again. Your mother needs continuous monitoring and potentially experimental treatments that her insurance won't cover. How much are we talking about? Total? Over the next 5 years? Possibly over $1 million. Victoria's knees buckled. James caught her, lowering them both into plastic chairs. I'll cover it, he said quietly. All of it. Stop, Victoria whispered. Please stop. I can't. I won't watch your mother die because of money I'll never miss. Victoria looked at him with something between gratitude and despair. If you do this, we can never be equals. There will always be this massive imbalance between us. Then we figure out how to live with it. Together. You're asking me to give up my pride, my independence, everything I've worked for. I'm asking you to let someone help you carry a burden that's too heavy to bear alone. Victoria buried her face in her hands. The choice before her was impossible. Accept James's help and lose herself in debt and obligation, or refuse and watch her mother die. Yes. This isn't fair, she choked out. No, it's not. Why did you have to walk into my life? Same reason you walked into mine. Fate. Chance. Whatever you want to call it. Victoria looked up at him, her eyes red and exhausted. If I agree to this, if I let you pay for my mother's treatment, I need something in return. Anything. Don't resign. Keep your position at Wellington Enterprises. James recoiled. What? You heard me? Cancel the restructuring, keep everyone's jobs, but stay as CEO. Victoria's voice grew stronger. Because if you throw away everything you've built for me, I'll never forgive myself. And eventually, you'll never forgive me either. Victoria, that's not true, isn't it? You said it yourself. That company is your entire life. Without it, who are you? I don't know. But I want the chance to find out. And find out while still running $1 billion empire. Victoria stood, her decision made. That's my condition. You keep your job. I keep mine. And we see if we can build something real without you sacrificing your entire world for me. James stood as well, searching her face. You're protecting me. Someone has to. What about us? I don't know. I honestly don't know if there can be an us. But I know I can't be with someone who destroyed his life to be with me. That's not love. That's martyrdom. And I refuse to be anyone's cross to bear. James pulled the resignation letter from his pocket and slowly tore it in half, then in quarters. He let the pieces flutter to the hospital floor. Okay, we do this your way. Victoria nodded, exhaustion and relief warring on her face. I should go see my mother. Do you want me to wait? No, go home. We both need space to think. James hesitated, then leaned forward and kissed her forehead gently. For what it's worth, I think you're the bravest person I've ever met. If that were true, I wouldn't be so terrified right now. He left her there in the fluorescent hospital lights, surrounded by the beeping of machines and the antiseptic smell of survival. As James drove home alone, he realized Victoria was right about one thing. They could never be equals. The money between them was too vast. The power imbalance too severe. But maybe, just maybe, they could be partners, and that would have to be enough too. Months passed in careful distance. James canceled the restructuring as promised. Victoria kept her job. Her mother recovered slowly in a private room that James paid for without question. They saw each other occasionally in the penthouse, maintaining polite professionalism that felt like swallowing glass. Victoria arrived one Thursday night to find James at his desk, drowning in paperwork. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He looked thinner, older. You should go home and sleep, Victoria said softly. Can't. The board is pushing for another cost-cutting measure. They won't let the restructuring go. What are they proposing? James rubbed his face. Layoffs. 50 people across various departments. If I refuse, they'll call for a vote of no confidence. Then do it. His head snapped up. What? Make the cuts. Fire 50 people to save 500 jobs. Victoria set down her cleaning supplies. That's what a CEO does. Makes impossible choices. I can't. Not after everything. James, you can't save everyone. Trying to will only destroy you and the company. Victoria sat across from him. Your job is to keep Wellington Enterprises alive. Sometimes that means people get hurt. Since when did you become so pragmatic? Since I realized that protecting you means helping you make hard decisions. She reached across the desk, covering his hand with hers. You're not the villain for doing what needs to be done. You're the villain if you let the whole ship sink because you're afraid to throw anyone overboard. James stared at their joined hands. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You were just too busy being guilty to notice. He laughed despite himself. Then his expression sobered. I miss you. I'm right here. No, you're not. You're keeping me at arm's length. Being careful, professional. That's what we agreed on. Screw what we agreed on. James stood, moving around the desk. I'm in love with you, Victoria. Have been for months. And I'm tired of pretending I'm not. Victoria's breath caught. Don't. Why not? Because it's complicated? Everything about us is complicated. Because of the money? That's never going away. Because people will judge? Let them. Because I'm terrified, Victoria whispered. Terrified that this is real. Terrified that it's not. Terrified that I'm just some project to make you feel better about your privilege? You really still think that? I think I don't know how to trust this. Any of this. James knelt in front of her chair, taking both her hands. Then let me prove it to you. Not with money, not with grand gestures. Just with time and consistency and showing up every single day. Victoria looked down at him, this powerful man on his knees before her, and felt something crack open in her chest. I'm falling for you too, she admitted. And it scares me to death. Good. We can be terrified together. He leaned up and she leaned down, and their lips met in a kiss that felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff simultaneously. The elevator dammed. They sprang apart as a woman stepped out. Tall, blonde, immaculate, in a designer suit. She took one look at them and smiled coldly. Well, isn't this cozy? James stood quickly. Margaret, what are you doing here? I'm on the board, darling. I have access to this building anytime I want. Margaret's eyes raked over Victoria with unconcealed disdain, and clearly, I should have been checking in sooner. This isn't what it looks like. Really? Because it looks like you're romantically involved with an employee, which is not only wildly inappropriate, but also a spectacular breach of company policy. Victoria stood as well, chin raised despite the humiliation burning through her. I should go. Yes, you should. Margaret's smile turned sharp. In fact, you should start looking for another job. I'll be calling an emergency board meeting tomorrow to discuss this little situation. Margaret, don't, James warned. Don't protect this company from a lawsuit? Don't prevent a PR nightmare? James, use your brain. This girl is a liability. Her name is Victoria. I don't care if her name's Cleopatra. She's a cleaning woman who's clearly working an angle with our CEO. How long before she claims sexual harassment? How long before she goes to the press? That's not who she is. You barely know her. 3 months of midnight chats don't constitute a relationship. They constitute an affair with an employee. Margaret pulled out her phone. I'm documenting this. Time-stamped photos. Witness testimony. When the board sees this, they'll demand her immediate termination. If she goes, I go, James said flatly. Margaret's eyes gleamed. Perfect. Because I've been preparing for that eventuality, I have enough votes to remove you as CEO and install myself as interim. Your father would be so disappointed to see how you've squandered his legacy over some gold. Digger, don't you dare speak about my father. Someone has to, since you've clearly forgotten everything he taught you. Margaret turned to Victoria. How much? What's your price to disappear quietly? Victoria's hands clenched into fists. I'm not for sale. Everyone is for sale, sweetheart. The only question is the price. Margaret, get out, James growled. I'll go. But I'll be back tomorrow with the full board. And when I am, one of you is leaving Wellington Enterprises? Maybe both. Margaret stepped back into the elevator. Choose wisely, James. Her or your company. You can't have both. The doors closed on her triumphant smile. Silence crashed down on the penthouse. She's right, Victoria said quietly. No, she's not. James, she has the power to destroy both of us. And she will. Then let her try. I'll fight this. How? By admitting we're together? That proves her point. By denying it? Then you're lying to the board. Victoria grabbed her cart. There's no winning move here. So what? You're just going to quit? I'm going to make the choice that protects you. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. This was always going to end badly. We both knew it. We just didn't want to admit it. Victoria, please? Don't do this. Someone has to be brave enough to walk away. She moved toward the elevator. Margaret was right about one thing. You can't have both. Your company or me. And you built that company from nothing? It's your legacy. Your father's legacy? It's just a company. It's your life. And I won't let you throw it away for someone you barely know. Stop saying that. I know you. I know you'd rather work yourself to death than accept help. I know you read Jane Austen when you can't sleep. I know you take your tea with too much sugar and you're terrified of disappointing your mother. I know the exact sound you make when you laugh genuinely, not politely. I know you. Victoria's tears spilled over. Then you know I'm doing this because I love you too much to let you destroy yourself. The elevator doors opened behind her. Ow. If you get in that elevator, I'm resigning tonight. I'll hand Margaret everything and walk away. Victoria turned back to him. You're bluffing. Try me. They stared at each other across the penthouse. Two people caught in an impossible situation with no good options. You would really throw away everything? Victoria whispered, in a heartbeat. Then you're a fool. For you. Absolutely. Victoria stepped into the elevator. Don't resign, please. Promise me you won't resign. I can't promise that. I need to know you'll be okay. How can I be okay without you? The elevator doors began to close. Victoria held his gaze until the very last second. You'll find a way. You always do. Then she was gone. James stood frozen for a long moment. Then, with a roar of frustration, he swept everything off his desk. Papers flew. His laptop crashed to the floor. A glass shattered against the wall. When the destruction was complete, he sank into his chair and buried his face in his hands. His phone buzzed. A text from Margaret. Emergency board meeting. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Be ready to explain yourself. James stared at the message, then at the resignation. Letter template on his computer screen. He had until morning to decide. His company or the woman he loved. His legacy or his legacy. Or his happiness. The choice should have been easy. But as he sat alone in his penthouse, watching the city lights blur through his tears, James realized there was no choice that wouldn't destroy him. Some bridges once burned can never be rebuilt, and some sacrifices once made can never be taken back. The question was, which sacrifice could he live with? The boardroom gleamed with morning light, all polished wood and leather chairs. James sat at the head of the table, resignation letter in his jacket pocket, watching the board members file in with expressions ranging from curious to hostile. Margaret entered last, her smile victorious. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, she began. I've called this meeting to address a serious breach of company policy. James cut her off. Before you continue, I have something to say. James, this isn't the time. It's exactly the time. He stood, pulling out not his resignation, but a different document. For months, I've been struggling with a restructuring plan that would have eliminated jobs to save money. I rejected it because I couldn't justify destroying people's livelihoods for a marginal profit increase. Confused. Murmurs rippled through the board. Margaret accused me of letting personal feelings cloud my judgment. She's right. My feelings did cloud my judgment, but not in the way she thinks. James pulled up a presentation on the screen behind him. I've spent the last 2 months developing an alternative plan. Instead of cutting jobs, we're restructuring management compensation. Starting with mine." The board erupted in protests. James raised his hand for silence. "I'm taking a 70% pay cut. Every C-level executive will take a minimum 50% cut. The savings will be invested in employee development, better wages for our lowest paid workers, and modernization that enhances jobs rather than eliminating them." "That's financial suicide," Margaret spat. "Actually, it's financially sound. I've run the numbers. We'll save nearly as much as the original restructuring. But we'll also retain institutional knowledge, improve employee morale, and avoid the PR nightmare of mass layoffs." James met Margaret's furious gaze. "Unless you'd like to argue that executives deserve millions while cleaning staff struggle to afford medical care." One of the older board members leaned forward. "And the situation with the cleaning woman. Victoria Hayes is an employee I've come to know through our late-night shifts overlapping. She opened my eyes to realities I'd been shielded from my entire life. Yes, I developed feelings for her. Yes, that complicated things. But it also made me a better CEO." "This is absurd," Margaret said. "You're restructuring an entire company because you have a crush on the help. I'm restructuring an entire company because she made me remember that corporations are built on people, not spreadsheets." James pressed a button on his laptop. "I'm also restructuring our board." A document appeared on screen. Margaret's face went white. 3 months ago, I started quietly buying shares from board members looking to retire. I now control 47% of voting shares. Combined with the block held by the Wellington Family Trust, I have majority control." Stunned silence. "Margaret, you've served this company well, but your tenure ends today. I'm offering you a generous severance package. Take it, or I'll investigate some concerning financial irregularities I've noticed in your expense reports." Margaret's hands shook with rage. "You're making a mistake." "It's probably. But it's my mistake to make." James held her stare until she looked away. "The vote is simple. Accept my restructuring plan and keep your positions with reduced compensation. Or reject it, and I'll replace this entire board within the month." Show of hands for accepting? One by one, hands rose. Even those who disagreed with James weren't willing to lose their positions. Margaret grabbed her belongings and stormed out without another word. When the meeting ended, James sat alone in the empty boardroom, exhausted and wired simultaneously. He'd saved the company, kept his position, protected the employees, but he'd lost Victoria, and nothing else mattered. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Your mother wants to meet you. Room 347, St. Catherine's Hospital." James frowned. His mother was at a spa retreat in Switzerland. This made no sense, but something pulled him to go. 30 minutes later, James stood outside room 347, heart pounding. He pushed open the door. Victoria's mother lay in the hospital bed, looking fragile but alert. Victoria sat beside her, eyes red from crying Mrs. Hayes. James said carefully, "Mr. Wellington, thank you for coming." She patted the chair on her other side. "Sit. We need to talk." James sat, confused and uncertain. "My daughter is an idiot," Mrs. Hayes announced. "Mom," Victoria protested weakly. "You are. You're running away from the best thing that ever happened to you because you're scared." She turned to James. "And you're an idiot too. You're so busy trying to prove your love through grand gestures that you haven't noticed what she actually needs." "What does she need?" James asked quietly. "She needs to know she's your equal, not your charity case, not your employee, your partner." Mrs. Hayes grabbed both their hands. "I'm dying. Not today, maybe not this year, but eventually this heart will give out. And when it does, I need to know my daughter won't be alone." "Mom, don't. It's true and you know it." She squeezed Victoria's hand. "Baby, you've spent your whole life taking care of me. Let someone take care of you for once. But the money, the power difference, is only as big as you make it." Mrs. Hayes looked at James. "You have money? She has strength. You have power. She has wisdom. You're both stubborn, proud, and terrified of being vulnerable. Sounds equal to me. James reached across the bed, taking Victoria's hand. I don't want to save you. I want to build a life with you. There's a difference, is there? Victoria whispered. Yes. Saving you would mean taking away your agency, making decisions for you, treating you like you're broken. Building a life with you means we make decisions together. We stumble together. We succeed together. I'm still a cleaning woman. You're still a billionaire CEO, so let's change that. James took a deep breath. Marry me? Victoria's eyes went wide. What? Marry me? Not because I'm rescuing you, but because I can't imagine my life without you in it. Marry me and finish your degree. Use my connections to start your own business. Write your book about Jane Austen. Whatever you want. Not as my wife who I support, but as my partner who I believe in. It's not a proposal. That's a business pitch, Mrs. Hayes muttered. James knelt beside Victoria's chair, pulling a ring box from his pocket. You're right. Let me try again. Victoria Hayes, you walked into my life at midnight and made me remember what it feels like to be human. You challenged me, frustrated me, inspired me, and made me want to be better. I love your strength. I love your sharp tongue. I love that you'd rather argue with me than let me get away with easy answers. I love you. Not despite our differences, but because of them. Marry me, please. Tears streamed down Victoria's face. I don't want you to give up anything from me. I'm not. I'm gaining everything. James opened the box, revealing a simple but beautiful ring. Say yes. Or say no. But don't say no, because you're afraid. Victoria looked at her mother, who smiled encouragingly. Then back at James, still kneeling, still waiting. Elliot got her second chance, Victoria said softly. Why shouldn't I? Is that a yes? It's a yes to trying. To seeing if we can make this impossible thing work. She held out her hand. To being brave enough to claim my own happiness. James slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood and pulled her into his arms. They kissed while Mrs. Hayes applauded from her hospital bed, when they finally broke apart. James rested his forehead against Victoria's. I'm still scared, she admitted. Me too. What if we fail? Then we fail spectacularly and write a book about it. James grinned. But something tells me we're both too stubborn to fail. You got that right, Mrs. Hayes said. Now, get out of here, both of you. I need my rest, and you two need to stop being tragic and start being happy. They left the hospital hand in hand, walking into the autumn afternoon. The city bustled around them, indifferent to their small miracle. So what happens now? Victoria asked. Now we figure it out as we go. James squeezed her hand. Together, I'm keeping my job until I finish my degree. I wouldn't expect anything less. And I'm paying you back. Every penny you spent on my mother's treatment, it might take years, but I'll do it. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I mean it, James. It's fine. Pay me back in midnight conversations and terrible jokes and keeping me grounded when I get too caught up in boardroom politics. Victoria smiled. I think I can manage that. 6 months later, Victoria graduated with honors. She started a nonprofit connecting working-class students with educational opportunities. James cut his own salary by 80% to fund it. 1 year later, they were married in a small ceremony with only close friends and family. Mrs. Hayes walked Victoria down the aisle, her heart still beating strong. 2 years later, Victoria published her first book, a modern retelling of persuasion about second chances and the courage to love across impossible divides. And every night, no matter how busy their days became, they met in their penthouse at midnight. They would sit by the windows overlooking the city, drinking tea and talking about books and dreams and the beautiful, complicated life they'd built together. The cleaning cart still sat in the corner, a reminder of where they'd started. But neither of them cleaned. Anymore, they'd found something better than fairy tales or rescue fantasies. They'd found partnership, equality, love that was earned rather than given, built rather than bestowed, and on quiet nights, when the city lights glittered below and the world felt vast and full of possibility, James would look at his wife and remember the night she'd walked into his life? The night that changed everything. The night he'd stopped existing and started. Living Victoria would catch him staring and smile. That same smile from their first conversation, full of intelligence and challenge and hard-won hope. "What are you thinking?" she'd ask, and James would pull her close and whisper the same answer every time: "That I'm the luckiest man alive." Some love stories are about princes rescuing princesses, but the best ones are about two people saving each other. The end.